Gino Palazzolo's arrested at airport. Yes, you heard it right. Welcome to Viba FlixM, the one place where we peel back the polished surface of reality television and expose the raw, unfiltered truth the network cameras never want you to see. What you're about to hear is not a recap. It's an investigation. We've been digging deep, connecting with insider sources, examining legal documents, and piecing together the story the show conveniently left out. The divorce you think you know between Gino and Jasmine is only the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface lies a tangled web of legal traps, calculated revenge, and a financial time bomb that could completely destroy one of them. This isn't just a breakup. This is a war. And at the center of it all is one overlooked legal clause, a ticking time bomb buried in Michigan state law that transforms this messy separation into a full-blown conspiracy thriller. Everything you thought you understood is about to change. The official story begins simply enough. Gino, exhausted, bitter, and feeling used, finally decides to pull the trigger on the divorce. He's made the threat countless times before, but this time, he follows through. Our sources confirm that he returned to the very same lawyer who handled his first divorce more than a decade ago. It was a strangely nostalgic move, seeking familiar ground before stepping into chaos. But what the cameras never showed, what our insider report reveals exclusively, is the hesitation from the lawyer himself. This was not going to be a clean break. This was going to be a legal bloodbath. And the lawyer knew it the moment Gino said Jasmine's name. Before we go any further, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Viba FlixM, and turn on notifications, because what we're about to uncover goes far beyond reality TV drama, and you won't want to miss a single detail. Let's dissect the profound difference between Gino's two divorces because it's the key to understanding his current psychological state. His first marriage ended after 7 years. Sources describe it as mutual, amicable, almost procedural. It was the closing of a chapter, not a declaration of war. It left him with a clean slate. Fast forward to now. His marriage to Jasmine, officially lasting 2 years, was in reality a volatile pressure cooker for a mere 10 months of cohabitation. This wasn't a slow, mutual drifting apart. This was a catastrophic implosion, a supernova of accusations and betrayals. The narrative Gino presented to his lawyer was one of pure victimization. He laid out a timeline of what he perceived as calculated deception. Jasmine's alleged cheating, the constant fights, and his ultimate damning conclusion that he was nothing more than a stepping stone, a pawn in her elaborate game to secure a green card and a life in America. He didn't just feel heartbroken, he felt conned. This difference is vital. He wasn't seeking resolution through this divorce, he was seeking revenge. Here is where Gino's emotional condition thrusts him headfirst into the initial stage of this terrible legal situation. His mentality is entirely punitive and not strategic. According to an insider who spoke with us about the legal processes, Gino's first session was more of a vindictive monologue than a discussion of the law. Not only did he inform the lawyer that he suspected Jasmine of using him for the green card, but he proudly admitted to having reported her to immigration authorities twice for possible fraud. Take a few seconds to consider that. The woman he was still married to was the object of his strenuous efforts to have her deported. Gino viewed the divorce papers as more of a weapon than a legal tool for separation. For him, they were the last resort in his quest to punish Jasmine for her actions, dethrone her from her position, and bring about justice. A crimson haze of emotion obscured his vision. Instead of daydreaming about her on a plane to Panama, he was preoccupied with fantasies of asset partition and legal precedent. The terrifying legal trap that was going to close on him was revealed to him due to his emotionally driven and non-strategic attitude. He missed the disastrous results of Jasmine's current behavior because he was too busy punishing her for her previous ones. And now, we reach the most shocking part of the whole thing, the turn of events that turns this into a legal nightmare rather than just another reality TV divorce. The presumption of paternity is an essential principle of family law in Michigan. In his pursuit of proof of Jasmine's treachery, Gino believed that her pregnancy with Matt, another man, was the smoking gun. A quick and amicable divorce could be heralded by this conclusive evidence of her adultery. It was crystal clear to him she cheated and had a child with another man, thus he was in a strong position. There is no way he was more mistaken. The truth is mind-boggling, as our legal experts have explained to us. If a mother gives birth to a child while married in Michigan, her husband is believed to be the child's legal father under Michigan law. The identity of the biological father is irrelevant. The fact that they reside in separate states is irrelevant. If they haven't laid eyes on each other for months, it'll be fine. It is the husband's responsibility to ensure that the marriage papers are validly submitted. Entering the lawyer's office, Gino was under the impression that he was in possession of a winning lottery ticket. The lawyer, on the other hand, admitted to being the proud owner of a child who was not his and a bill totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars. It would be difficult to exaggerate the monetary impact of this legal presumption. There was an impending financial catastrophe here, not just a little legal hiccup. Our source tells us that Gino's lawyer had to tell him it how it is. As the supposed legal father, Gino would be required by the court to provide financial support. Not a few $100 here and there, this is serious business. Child support payments continue until the child reaches 18 years old, or later if the child goes to college. And other related costs include medical insurance, tuition, and daycare. It would be entirely up to him to handle it. Gino felt a noticeable shockwave when the lawyer conducted a preliminary calculation, which was just a rough estimate. Over the following 20 years, the overall cost can easily reach hundreds of thousands of dollars. His expression turned pale as he came to terms with the fact that his hard-earned money, retirement funds, and assets could all be used to support another man's child. It was incredibly awful irony. He had unknowingly gotten himself into a legal trap that would bankrupt him in his zealous quest for revenge against Jasmine. Gino's reaction was characterized by overwhelming panic, as one would anticipate from a guy witnessing the disintegration of his life in before of his very eyes. "Whose goddamn white baby is that?" he yelled out in a fit of hysteria, according to our source. An innate cry of shock and terror escaped. He has revealed his entire mental condition in the declaration. It was the utter unfairness of the situation, not merely the money. He was bound by law to the emblem of his wife's treachery. His entire world had turned upside down because of this one little rule of law. He had transformed from the victimized spouse pursuing a redress to the supposed father bearing an enormous monetary and legal responsibility. He hadn't anticipated anything at all. He, like the majority of people, reasoned that a man's biological makeup determines whether he can be a father. But the law is based on other concepts, and its primary goal is to protect a child's financial security. Unfortunately, Gino fell prey to that system and the law, which he was blissfully unaware even existed. The attorney had to spend a considerable amount of time reassuring him, clarifying that this presumption was not an inevitable verdict, but rather a legal obstacle that needed to be overcome, and done so promptly. A limited way out of this nightmare existed, and time was of the essence. Gino was advised by the lawyer on the precise measures to be taken in order to refute paternity and end this uncomfortable legal tie. To begin with, in order to establish his paternity in a scientific manner, a DNA test would be necessary. However, it was insufficient. Additional legal documentation in the form of an affidavit of support from Matt, the child's biological father, would be required. By signing this document, Matt formally acknowledges his paternity and agrees to be financially and legally responsible for the child. It was a legal approach that combined scientific knowledge with strategic legal maneuvering. On the other hand, the deadline was the most important piece of information that the lawyer gave. This was not a free-form procedure. If you want to contest the presumption of paternity in Michigan, you have 3 years from the date of the child's birth, a span of 3 years. Although it appears to be a considerable amount of time, in the tedious realm of legal disputes, it can be gone in the blink of an eye. A legal countdown timer began for Gino the second that baby took its first breath. He was drawing nearer to that deadline and to getting ensnared irrevocably with each passing day and week of fuming about Jasmine's behavior. Now, a sensible individual would promptly launch the paternity challenge and file for a divorce when confronted with a possible 6-figure financial disaster and the passage of time. However, Gino is not yet a reasonable person because he is a man whose decisions border on the extremely self-destructive. His need for revenge drives him to make some questionable choices. Gino shocked everyone by shockingly deciding not to file for divorce yet, even though his lawyer had warned him about the paternity trap and the impending deadline. He chose to remain still. An outsider would have thought this was completely insane. And why would he put his finances at jeopardy? His warped understanding of leverage holds the key. He clung to the belief that Jasmine's immigration status gave him the upper hand. He was prepared to risk his entire financial future in his obsession with the thought of managing her green card procedure. Instead of viewing the divorce as a means to an end, his own protection, he used it as a weapon in his psychological struggle with his wife. Our source tells us that the lawyer warned against the technique, calling it playing with fire in a house full of dynamite. It's outrageously short-sighted. Gino offered 2 weak justifications for this dangerous holdup. Dissecting them exposes the manipulative, evil heart of his plan. Concerning the money side of things, he stated his intention to file once the stock market takes a dive. In his mind, if the market were to crash, the paper worth of his assets would fall, and Jasmine's settlement demand would be lower. It's an arguable tactic, and the enormous risk of the paternity suit makes it seem like a little financial play. He probably used it as a pretext to hide his actual motivation. There was a far more nefarious motive behind his inaction, and that was immigration sabotage. He made it clear to his attorney that he thought going ahead and getting a divorce would be giving her the green light to get that card. He couldn't take his eyes off the immigration application deadline she had submitted. The timing of the divorce, he was sure, would allow him to damage her entire existence in America, but he wasn't content with simply divorcing her. We need to investigate Jasmine's immigration situation thoroughly to comprehend Gino's faulty reasoning. A process known as removal of conditions is involved in this. She is practically on probation for the first 2 years of her green card, jointly filing an I-751 form with a mountain of evidence proving their marriage is bona fide, joint bank accounts, photos, affidavits from friends, shared bills, etc., is the government's way of saying, we believe this marriage is real, but you need to prove it to get the permanent 10-year green card. In this case, she and her spouse, Gino, must do just that. The most important portion is about to begin. The procedure is drastically altered if the couple files for a divorce prior to that form being submitted. Joint filings with Gino are no longer an option for Jasmine. She needs to seek a waiver in order to file independently. In essence, the government is being asked to ignore the divorce by this waiver. To obtain it, she would need to provide evidence that the marriage was entered into with genuine intentions, rather than solely seeking a green card. Alternatively, she may assert her status as a victim of abuse. It is not impossible, but it is a far more difficult approach with a higher weight of proof. Annually, thousands of individuals are able to secure waivers. But Gino saw the waiver procedure as a legal loophole that he had to exploit rather than a legitimate option. He reasoned that Jasmine would be free to seek for this waiver if he divorced her. He felt he was standing in her way by choosing not to divorce her and being married to her. He plotted to detain her immigration status and prolong the procedure until her conditional green card expired. He then anticipated that she would be compelled to depart the nation. He was acting on the extremely erroneous belief that he was responsible for determining her destiny in the United States. It was an evil scheme hatched out of animosity with the goals of controlling and punishing her, in addition to dissolving the marriage. The lawyer's stern cautions went unheeded because he was engrossed in his fantasy of control. The actual and exorbitant paternity clock was ticking away as he preoccupied himself with becoming the immigration puppet master, and it threatened to explode his financial existence. He was risking his own safety for a small-minded and pointless vendetta. The absolute disaster that was Gino's plan had to be laid out for him by the lawyer. Based on what we hear, there was a heated exchange between Gino and the lawyer, who referred to Gino's plan as the high cost of vengeance. The lawyer pointed out that postponing the divorce would cause the mounting legal bills to escalate. The amount that Gino had to pay kept going up with each consultation and phone contact. He was essentially buying more time to be sick and put himself in danger. Total loss of control, however, posed a considerably more serious threat. In a terrifying move, the attorney asked, "What if Jasmine files first?" Gino, whose egotism and fixation on his own power made him blind to this possibility. There is a two-way street in the legal system. The case's dynamics would change drastically if Jasmine exercised her right to petition for a divorce on her own. As a result, Gino would no longer have any say in the matter. Because he would have to respond to her actions, he would be on the defensive and could be in a much weaker legal position. He risks completely losing control if he tries to control the situation. Indeed, that is the exact event that transpired. While Gino remained in Michigan, harboring resentment and stubbornly sticking to his ineffective plan, Jasmine took action. Our research has shown that her primary residence was in Florida at the time of her divorce filing. This was a strategic genius move by Jasmine that utterly deflated Gino's revenge fantasies. It wasn't merely a small procedural setback. She sparked a dispute over applicable law by submitting her case in Florida. Their dispute over which state's court would have jurisdiction over the case would predate any discussion of assets or paternity. This threw Gino into an unanticipated legal maze where he wasted time and money. He would now be entangled in a legal battle spanning multiple states, employing attorneys in Florida and making court appearances. In addition, his paternity claims that are unique to Michigan may not receive the attention they deserve in a Florida court because of the distance between the two states. Even though his 3-year window is rapidly closing, they may move ahead with the divorce nevertheless, leaving him to deal with the paternity question on his own. He was now facing a legal struggle on two fronts as his once great scheme to control Jasmine failed catastrophically, leaving him with even less control than before. There is more to this planned power play than just Jasmine's filing style. Public notice, according to the reports, is the process she utilized, which entailed publishing the divorce papers in a local newspaper. This is a legitimate alternative to personally serving the opposite party with the documents. Although it may be justified as a necessary practice, our legal sources have proposed an exclusive explanation that implies it might have been more calculated. She may claim she tried her best to notify Gino by utilizing public notice, even though Gino, who lives in Michigan, had almost little chance of seeing a tiny legal notice in a Florida newspaper. The legal processes could have been advanced covertly using this approach, catching Gino entirely unaware. It was successful. That was a complete disaster. There will likely be a race to the courthouse situation in which both parties attempt to establish that their filing has legal precedence, since Gino's lawyer is frantically asserting that Gino actually filed first in Michigan. Choosing which state's laws will control the outcome is more important than any matter of pride. That difference could be worth a lot of money when it comes to the money involved. Location is only one of many issues at stake in this jurisdictional dispute. It's all about the money, and more especially the money from TLC. Just so we're clear, the show's earnings are considered marital property and will be split equally during the divorce. How can this be accomplished? The regulations governing the distribution of assets are distinct in Michigan and Florida. On top of that, reality TV contracts are infamously complicated. In many cases, they are designed to provide the American citizen a significant advantage. Theoretically, among legal experts versed in such contracts, there may be provisions outlining the distribution of assets in the case of a dissolution of the marriage. The laws of one state might very well be much more accommodating to Jasmine than those of the other. So, it's not merely a matter of convenience. This is a high-stakes chess match to see who gets the larger share of the reality TV pie, the location of the case hearing. By taking the initiative to file in Florida, Jasmine did more than initiate the divorce proceedings. She also chose the battleground, and it is a battleground that could provide her with a significant financial advantage. Because of his delay, Gino not only lost the initiative, but he might have also lost a substantial amount of money from the program. Con. The history of the events leading up to this scorched earth divorce must be examined in order to completely understand the venom and poison that are driving this fire. One prominent example is the notorious photo leak. This was brought up again by the sources, who pointed out that Gino had previously admitted to sending one of his exes private topless images of Jasmine. He pretended it was an act of revenge or weakness, but he did admit that he was partly motivated by a desire to boast. It was more than just infidelity. It was a horrific and deep breach of trust. There were actual repercussions for Jasmine as a result of this public shaming. Her teaching position in Panama was seriously jeopardized as a result of the controversy. She was able to support herself, advance in her career, and make a respectable $3,000 a month thanks to that employment. That kind of disclosure isn't simply humiliating, it might ruin someone's career. When the extent of that betrayal is considered, Jasmine's present aggressive legal strategy appears less like a heartless plot and more like the last-ditch effort of a woman who has reached her breaking point. Additionally, Gino's past reveals a man with severely flawed interpersonal philosophy, which must be remembered. The sources brought up his shocking admission of paying sugar babies. He confessed to shelling out $200 to $250 one time on Ladies for Company, rationalizing it by saying he couldn't discover genuine love. Not only is this an oddity, but it also reveals a trend of transactional relationships. It alludes to a guy who sees romantic relationships and closeness via a monetary prism. In light of the photo leak, this paints a frightening image. The protagonist, a man who has difficulty showing his partner's real respect, often reverts to controlling and humiliating behavior when he feels hurt or insecure. The tremendous toxicity of this divorce can be explained in part by these underlying fissures in his character, which are not isolated events. This disagreement did not spring up out of thin air. It had simmered for some time before legal representation was sought. The present degree of hostility and the damaging legal gamesmanship seem less surprising and more inevitable in light of this background. Let us now go to the other side of the tale by utilizing this very idea of fatherhood and obligation. The real biological father, Matt, is doing everything but what Gino is doing, waging a futile court struggle across many states to evade any legal or financial responsibility for a child. He is fully immersing himself in the unedited, visceral, and raw realities of fatherhood. This is the most striking contrast I have ever seen. In stark contrast to the other man, who is embracing the role of father with an almost astounding degree of dedication, the first man is desperately trying to escape it. In contrasting reactions to the same defining moment in each character's lives, the two stories are a perfect reflection of one another. Jasmine and Matt are now seen in a prenatal class. Matt admits openly in the source materials that He has no idea what Jasmine is going through during her 37th week of pregnancy, just before she is about to give birth. How do you hold a baby? What's the right way to feed it? Am I supposed to change the diapers? He asks, his inquiries as simple as they can be. He was naive, knowing only that he would soon be a father, but knowing nothing about what it meant in practice. He had to take the introductory course, which covered the fundamentals of child care. At the same time, Jasmine had an exact plan for her own birth. Bringing the naive Matt along for the ride was all part of her meticulously planned, unmedicated natural childbirth, an incredibly taxing and excruciating process. The magnitude of the unbearable pain she was about to experience was something she wanted him to grasp well. She needed him to be an engaged and knowledgeable collaborator, not just an onlooker. She hoped he would finally understand to really grasp the bodily sacrifice that was required. No one should have attempted to understand all the material covered in that seminar. Shocking details are there even in the primary sources. Classifying the dangers of ripping during labor from first to fourth, they discussed them. One particular command, however, stood out from the others due to its visual and visceral realism. The teacher went into great depth on a method for avoiding the worst kinds of crying, and Matt was a direct participant. He was told that in order to keep Jasmine's vaginal walls from stretching during labor, he would need to physically assist her in doing so. The source said that if he didn't, a tear may go from her vagina to her butthole and make one giant hole. It's a very personal and graphic tutorial. This is the unfiltered biological truth that Jasmine apparently wanted Matt to face, despite how often it is covered over. With this newfound knowledge, he went from being an anxious observer to an integral member of the most crucial and risky parts of the delivery process. Because of this, he had to confront the harsh physical reality of the procedure, which eliminated any idealized ideas. Now, he would be actively involved in preventing a catastrophic injury, not merely holding her hand. It was a calculated move on Jasmine's part to be so physically honest. As a result, Matt rethought his function. In what could have been a life-threatening medical emergency for her, he was more than simply the man who would be waiting in the hall. He was an integral component of the team. Because of this, he had no choice but to face birth head-on, not only conceptualize it. He was forced to confront the complete physical exertion that was necessary. The real labor was disorderly even after all this hard training. They had to make a stressful and hurried dash to the birthing center after her water broke, which was supposedly 60 miles away. According to Jasmine, the following 8 hours were pure torture. It was a crucible test for the two of them. A girl named Matilda was born afterwards. There was a dramatic change in the air the second Matilda was born, according to the sources. Suddenly, a tidal wave of happiness washed over Matt, and his metamorphosis was complete. According to him, my heart grew like the Grinch's, 3 sizes. This is a strong and revealing quote that alludes to the famous Dr. Seuss novel. In that split second, he transformed from an utterly naive father who had no idea how to handle a bottle into a father who was astounded by the profound bond he had with his child. An incredible record of change, it attests to the profound impact of that first moment as a father. The fact that the infant, who is called Maddie, looks just like Matt adds another depth to the situation. This provides instantaneous, incontestable proof of his fatherhood. This, along with the immediate emotional connection he mentioned, solidifies his position as the dedicated, present father. The story's depiction of his emotional reaction, the baby's similarity, and his ready participation all highlight Gino's pitiful struggle for fatherhood. In contrast to Gino's tale of rejection and legal wrangling, Matt's tale is one of love and acceptance. As a result, Gino's behavior comes out as both tragic and illogical. Even when another man is praising it as the defining moment of his life, he is determined to turn his back on it. The difference between the two men is a harsh reflection of Gino's priorities. One is worrying about immigration paperwork and calculating legal bills, while the other is having his heart enlarged threefold. All right, let's move on from that tumultuous legal battlefield to another type of war, one that is less noisy, but just as intense. Everyone is fighting for the right to decide what happens to their own life, their own body, and their own future. Next, we'll meet Brandon and Julia, a couple whose life together has been fraught with obstacles. Even if they too are about to have a family, the main thing standing in their way isn't an immigration form or a legal assumption. Just down the road lives their adversary. Problems arise within their own family. For them, the pregnancy is a miracle in and of itself, and they are almost 5 months along. This baby is a symbol of triumph, a reward for their tenacity after their devastating infertility struggles. According to the sources, they were able to accomplish this by consulting a third medical professional, drastically changing Julia's diet, using hormone therapy, and closely monitoring her ovulation cycles. This isn't a fluke, it's the product of a determined, last-ditch attempt to start a family. They have already won one fight, but there will be another one before the big conflict begins. Be sure to keep an eye out for the minor earthquake warnings. We witness the typical low-stakes problems that any couple expecting a child encounters. One little source of tension that draws attention to their diverse origins is the cultural friction. In accordance with a Russian superstition, Julia was determined that she would not purchase any baby goods until she had completed the first trimester. Premature purchases, in her view, were a sign of bad luck. Brandon had to adapt to the minor but noticeable cultural gap because his American perspective is more founded in practicality. Then there's Julia's pregnant appetite, a strange and even comical detail that brings the story back to reality. With her French fries, she began to dip them in lemonade. It's a humorous prelude to the storm, the type of strange detail that makes them accessible. Such difficulties are par for the course, but what lies ahead is going to be a real test. Everything comes full circle when it comes to the one thing that has hampered their relationship from the beginning. Ron and Betty, Brandon's parents. To tell it how it is, Ron and Betty are more than just nice parents. Their infamous and pathological dominance is evident from any objective metric. With a grandchild on the way, their already intrusive tendencies will likely reach new heights, adding to their long history of boundary violations and control methods. This sets the stage for the initial contentious issue surrounding Julia's pregnancy, the timing of the announcement. Because Brandon has spent his entire life controlling his parents' emotions, he feels the need to break the news to them right away. His reasoning is two-pronged. Despite his outward arguments for seeking their support and spreading the good news, an insider theory reveals that his real motivation stems from fear. He is trying to calm them down. They will feel betrayed and excluded if they find out later, and their reaction would be 5 times worse, he knows. His intention to inform people ahead of time is not to spread happiness. Rather, it is a calculated move to avoid an inevitable backlash. To put it simply, he is attempting to handle a hostage scenario in the dark. In contrast, Julia would like to wait. It would appear that her stance is very acceptable. She prefers to hold off until after the first trimester, when the chances of miscarriage are at their maximum. It's a regular practice that millions of women follow for good reason, but her logic extends far beyond mere health concerns. Not daring fate, but the devil himself is her greatest fear. Our exclusive source has confirmed that Julia's decision to postpone is solely motivated by her wish to safeguard her emotional well-being from the upcoming assault by Ron and Betty. When she finally says, "I'm pregnant," she will no longer be able to control her own destiny. The moment they find out, they will start going overboard with their judgments of her every move, from what she eats to what she does with her time and whatever decision she takes. Their intrusion into her pregnancy will transform it from a happy time into a tumultuous 9 months of worry and stress. Ron and Betty need to learn to mind their own business, she told a friend in an honest moment of frustration. Not only is she putting off breaking the wonderful news, but she is also attempting to isolate herself and her unborn kid from the overwhelming amount of personality traits that each of them possesses. An extreme version of a universal struggle, this battle is a perfect microcosm of it. The struggle arises when one has an overwhelming urge to set and maintain personal boundaries while also longing for the support of loved ones during a difficult time in one's life. Given that Brandon has never experienced life outside from his parents' control, their interference is something he must learn to live with. He is prepared to give up his and Julia's tranquility in exchange for their assistance and support, which he views as an absolute requirement. He wishes for the traditional blessing of his family and a feeling of permanence. But Julia, with her fresh viewpoint as an outsider, recognizes their backing for what it really is, a ruse to gain power. Her unpleasant experience has taught her that their assistance is never provided for free. There are always conditions, and the price of acceptance is constant criticism, judgment, and the loss of personal agency. The concept that Brandon refers to as support is something that she perceives as stifling. After much deliberation, Julia takes a responsible choice. She values her emotional and mental health more than any temporary relief from logistics or the thrill of an early announcement. The long game is what she's playing. After 9 months of suffering with Ron and Betty's relentless intrusions, she realizes that the short-lived pain of a timing conflict with Brandon is insignificant compared to the long-term debilitating stress. The emotional cost of letting them in too soon is just too high, something she appears to know while Brandon is still battling to fathom. This posture is both protective and incredibly self-aware. Not only is she being defiant, but she is also fiercely protecting her own sanity, and by implication, the peaceful atmosphere she hopes to provide for her developing baby. Despite the great pressure from her spouse, who has been taught to give in to his parents' every demand, she is making a choice that many individuals in her position would make. This has significant psychological implications, therefore, let's look into them. Ain't. What happens when a family that is too controlling gets to decide how a person celebrates a life event as momentous as being pregnant? It completely changes the whole thing. The pair loses out on their personal exploration because of it. The process of deciding on everything, from the baby's name to the nursery's color scheme, becomes an argumentative negotiation. The necessity to defend one's own actions and manage other people's expectations dampens the delight. Given Julia's extensive background with them, this isn't just a potential threat, it's an assured reality. The background information must be recalled. This is the same couple who notoriously quizzed her about birth control while she was relaxing in a hot tub, who informed her she would be working on the farm, and who set up surveillance cameras to watch her. This is a long-standing problem. The failure to respect personal space is firmly ingrained. A horrific event in Julia's past is the trigger, not a future potential. At this crossroads in her life, she is finally creating a boundary, a line in the sand that has been there for a long time. So, as we bring these two narratives together, we see a stunning juxtaposition of human motivation. On one side, we have Gino, a man so consumed by a backward-looking quest for revenge that he is actively sabotaging his own future. His stubbornness, his refusal to listen to sound legal advice, is potentially costing him hundreds of thousands of dollars and chaining him to a life he doesn't want. He is a man setting his own house on fire just for the satisfaction of watching his ex-wife smell the smoke. On the other side, we have Julia, a woman who is looking forward, fighting to protect the future she is building. Her battle isn't with the legal system, it's with a toxic family dynamic. Her stubbornness isn't self-destructive, it's self-preservational. She is willing to create conflict in the short term to secure peace in the long term. One story is a tragedy of self-inflicted wounds born from hate, while the other is a drama of necessary conflict born from a desire to protect love. Looking at it in this manner makes the pattern quite obvious. Some people, like Gino, get so caught up in trying to win an emotional battle in a struggle where no one comes out on top. that they make decisions that are actually bad for themselves. In their pursuit of a temporary and meaningless retribution, they disregard sound counsel, damage relationships, and jeopardize their financial stability. For some, like Julia, the battle for happiness is a constant uphill battle against real, present, and tough obstacles like pregnancy and family building. They have no interest in becoming the victor. All they want is to make it through the conflict alive and find a little serenity for themselves. The woman is frantically attempting to avoid the drama, while the male is aggressively creating it. Here we have the show's unedited reality, which is frequently portrayed as amusing family disputes. However, a more fundamental and important finding from our research is a real high-stakes fight for individual liberty. Finally, let me pose a question for your consideration. Which is the larger prison? One that Gino is painstakingly constructing for himself out of legal traps and an insatiable need for vengeance. On the other hand, is it the stifling grip of familial responsibilities and the never-ending battle to establish limits that ought to have been honored from the start? A man's hate and his history hold him captive. A couple's family won't release them from their captivity. When escaping from a cage, which one is more difficult? Leave a comment below with your exclusive theories and insider reports. What are your thoughts on the inevitable downfall of Gino's revenge plot and on Julia's right to stand firm against Ron and Betty, regardless of the consequences for Brandon? Your insightful remarks are what set our community apart from all others online, and we read each and every one of them. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the Viba FlixM, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update if you want to remain ahead of the curve and get the genuine stories that the network doesn't want you to know. We're already investigating the next scandal, and we guarantee that the Viba FlixM that's set to be released will alter your perceptions of yet another beloved marriage. My name is Zara, and I am calling it quits. Because the rabbit hole is so deep, let's resume from where we left off. Now that we know where the battle is, we can examine the general's covert plans. Coming back to Gino, we see that he is actually merely knocking over chess pieces, but he thinks he is playing the game. As we have shown, his choice to postpone the divorce was a disastrous error of judgment. What our insider sources are now corroborating, however, is that decision's utter hubris, which the original reports failed to adequately convey. It wasn't merely an error in judgment, it was a severe lack of awareness regarding his adversary. Gino had a severe lack of appreciation for Jasmine. By using legal threats and intimidation, he thought he could control her emotional and reactionary behavior and ultimately her deportation. She might be playing a more complex game, but he never once thought about it. Our exclusive investigation into the law has led us to believe that Jasmine may have had access to legal representation the minute Gino transmitted those now infamous images. Consider, engaging in revenge porn was probably illegal in addition to being a personal betrayal. This, according to someone in Jasmine's inner circle, served as a wake-up call for the star. Her relationship had become more than just toxic. It was downright hazardous, she had come to recognize. Not for a divorce, but for protection, she probably went to a lawyer at that point. This suggests that Jasmine may have been covertly gathering evidence against Gino for months, keeping track of his actions and seeking advice from immigration and family law experts, all while Gino was raging and planning his small retribution. Divorce papers were not filed in Florida on an impulsive basis. It may have been the last deciding step in a secret plan she had been hatching for some time. Even though Gino always saw himself as the hunter, he might have actually been the hunted. Using this fresh lens, let's examine the jurisdictional dispute. Michigan is the principal state of domicile for Gino and his legal team. Therefore, they are attempting to get the case heard there. Nonetheless, there are a number of reasons why Jasmine's selection of Florida is astute as it is clever. Various precedents may impact Florida family law, especially in a reality TV star case. The psychological toll is an additional, more tactical factor that our sources have pointed out. She makes Gino battle on her home turf in Florida by filing there. He is the one who needs to shell out thousands of dollars for airfare and lodging as he searches for fresh legal counsel in a foreign state. One time honored strategy in warfare was to cut off the adversary's supply lines and make them battle in enemy territory. For every dollar that Gino loses in this battle for jurisdiction, he will have to forego spending on the divorce itself. Even before the first serious accusations regarding asset distribution have been leveled, she is emotionally and financially draining him. It's a battle of attrition, and Gino can't hope to win it using his meager resources and emotionally motivated approach. Moreover, let's think about how it looks. It is possible that Jasmine's story might have better luck in a Florida court. Just after giving birth, this pregnant mother is attempting to begin a fresh chapter in her life with her child's biological father. However, Gino would be seen as her vengeful ex-husband from another state, rushing in to cause chaos in her life and question the fatherhood of her newborn. The story unravels on its own. According to Jasmine and her legal team, the man's inability to let go of control began with the photo leak, and he has been using the court system to perpetuate his campaign of harassment ever since. By having the case heard in her home state, Jasmine has taken the initiative in what is essentially a public relations campaign rather than a purely legal one. She can portray herself as the helpless new mother wishing for peace and Gino as the villain. Gino appears completely unable to grasp this level of strategic thinking due to his uncontrolled anger. The question of paternity also remains unresolved. Even while the law in Michigan is crystal clear, a judge in Florida could look at the case very differently. According to our legal analyst's unique theory, Jasmine's team could ask to have the paternity issue removed from the main divorce case and file a motion to accelerate the divorce. They could make the case that Jasmine's child with Matt's paternity had nothing to do with Gino's decision to end their marriage. They can argue that Gino is making a malicious effort to cause the mother mental grief by dragging out the paternity lawsuit. Gino would have to initiate a separate, time-consuming, and financially draining paternity action in Michigan if the judge permits the divorce to go forward in Florida, which would involve dividing their marital assets. It's a diplomatic move meant to separate Gino from his main issue and put him in a position where he can handle it alone, financially, as the 3-year clock keeps ticking away. We may now return to Matt and Matilda's birth because fresh information has surfaced that complicates the story even further. Matt's emotional metamorphosis has been established, but the financial and legal aspects of his condition have not been addressed. Matt is not a rich man, according to our insider information. He just works like any other man. For him, it's a huge adjustment to become a parent financially, what with all the diapers, formula, medical expenses, and childcare costs. The plot twists again at this point. An insider with knowledge of Matt has admitted that he and his daughter are well aware of Gino and Jasmine legal dispute and how it may affect them. If Gino manages to evade his legal obligations, he knows that those obligations could eventually catch up with him in ways he isn't expecting. As a result, an exclusive theory is developed, which is now being discussed in private. It is possible that Matt is being represented by an attorney of his own choosing. It would be prudent to take this precaution. What happens to Gino and Jasmine's divorce has a direct bearing on his and his daughter's financial destiny. Gino might find himself in a sticky legal situation if he is automatically recognized as the father. Who pays the child support? Is it possible for a child to have not one, but 2 biological fathers? Matt's attorney would tell him to sign any affidavits that are required, work completely with Jasmine's team, and do whatever is needed to deny Gino's paternity in court. His priorities are currently congruent with Jasmine's. While she wants Gino out of her life for more personal reasons, he needs him out of her life for more pragmatic and economical reasons. Since Gino is now seen as the common enemy, the scenario escalates from a straightforward love triangle to a complicated three-party legal partnership, not to mention the mental and emotional strain on Matt. He is attempting to bond with his newborn daughter while navigating the challenges of new fatherhood, including restless nights and worries. But he has to deal with this strange legal drama. His partner hates this man, and he has to accept the reality that another man could be legally named the father of his daughter. Anxieties and doubt obscure what ought to be a happy occasion. According to our source, Matt is quite irritated and furious about everything that's happening. He thinks Gino's behavior is bringing shame on his own family in addition to hurting Jasmine. His intense animosity may serve as an additional incentive for him to cooperate and testify truthfully for Jasmine's legal team. For Jasmine's sake, sure, but also for his own mental health and his daughter's legal stability, he has an interest in seeing Gino vanquished. The argument over informing his parents was only the beginning of a protracted fight. So let's circle back to Brandon and Julia. As expected, Brandon gave in to pressure at some point, according to the sources. Despite Julia's desires, he broke the news to his parents because he was too overwhelmed with pressure and worried about their reaction. The consequences were just as bad, if not worse, than Julia had predicted. It wasn't simply some words of wisdom. Ron and Betty invaded in full force. We learned from an insider that they started dropping by the house without warning, carrying parenting manuals, organic baby food recipes, and an unlimited supply of complaints over Brandon and Julia's way of life. It was said that Betty questioned Julia's choice to stay at work, implying that a good mother would be spending time at home relaxing. Ron began hatching a plot to turn a spare bedroom into a nursery, just in case you need a break. A suggestion that Julia rightly saw as an effort to take control of her child. The matter of medical treatment became much more contentious. The physician and hospital for Julia's delivery had already been selected. As soon as Betty heard this, she dove headfirst into her study. She handed Brandon a stack of articles that cast doubt on the doctor's qualifications and emphasized the many complaints lodged against the medical facility. A doctor she knew personally, one who had delivered the kid of a church friend, was her vested interest in having them switch doctors. This had escalated from mere unwanted advice to an overt effort to influence Julia's healthcare decisions. A huge quarrel broke out when Julia declined. According to an exclusive account from a close relative who was there during the incident, Julia was described as being shaking with rage, while Brandon found himself ensnared, attempting fruitlessly to mediate the conflict. His mother's standard emotional manipulation statements, such as, "We just care about the health of our grandchild," would swiftly silence him if he attempted a feeble defense of Julia's choice. "The reason you're being so stubborn is beyond me." After a while, Julia could feel the effects of all this stress. According to the source, she began to feel anxious, had problems sleeping, and dread whenever the phone rang. She was finding that dealing with her in-laws was more emotionally taxing than the joyful anticipation of her pregnancy. As Brandon was unable to establish clear boundaries, she experienced a sense of isolation. While he would privately agree with her that his parents were unreasonable, he would immediately fall back into his habit of avoiding or placating them when they were around. This caused a schism to form between them. Betrayed and unsupported, Julia felt. Brandon had enabled the situation to transpire by disregarding her warnings, even though she had foretold it precisely. Their argument had escalated from merely arguing with his parents to one that pertained to his parents specifically, which was a considerably more toxic and harmful strain on their relationship. An informant told us that the argument escalated as they were discussing potential names for the kid. Julia was very attached to her name, which was of Russian origin and held special meaning for her and her family. Her story was met with unabashed contempt by Ron and Betty when she told them about it. Reportedly, Betty remarked, "Well, that's different. Will you really saddle a kid with an unpronounceable name?" Ron Jr. was one of the more American names he proposed. In that split second, Julia's culture, her identity, and her heritage were all but erased. This was the last straw for Julia. It dawned on her that this was here to stay. Their intentions went beyond mere involvement. They sought to eradicate her and shape her child according to their own desires. She made a choice that would change their future right then. Julia issued an ultimatum to Brandon, according to an exclusive report that has not been made public anywhere else. She made it clear that she would be taking the kid and leaving after it was born, unless he put an end to his parents' behavior. Instead of enduring this harmful involvement for the rest of her life, she was ready to raise the child alone. There was no bluff here. Someone close to her has said that she is ice cold and deadly serious. There was no going back now. Brandon was thrust into a situation he had always tried to avoid because of this ultimatum. His role as the impartial arbiter of peace had to end. He was faced with a decision. Would he finally rebel against his parents and commit fully to his wife, becoming a fierce defender for his new family? Or would he maintain his role as the obedient son, putting his own happiness on the back burner in favor of a peaceful life? Depending on his response, their marriage and family's future were in jeopardy. Instead of a home, the formerly tranquil farm had become a pressure cooker on the verge of exploding. The concept of legacy emerges as a significant thread. Therefore, let's weave together these two apparently separate narratives. Gino, for one, is a man who is doing everything in his power to ruin his own reputation. His actions guarantee that he will be remembered not as a kind spouse or an accomplished individual, but as an enraged, vindictive ex-lover, entangled in legal disputes and defined by his own petty grievances. His future relationships and financial stability will be stained by the emotional and financial toll of his conflict with Jasmine. Instead of leaving a legacy of peace, he is leaving a heritage of constant strife. Meanwhile, there are people like Brandon and Julia who are determined to leave an indelible mark on the world. They want to start a new family line, a new generation, but they can't continue carrying on Brandon's poisonous legacy. Julia is fighting for the future of her child, not merely for her own mental health. She wants her child to grow up in a house where rules are followed and limits are respected, rather than one where control and manipulation are prevalent. A choice of legacy is what Brandon is making. Will he bring out a new generation of strife by carrying on his parents' destructive habits? On the other hand, will he decide to end it all and start over with Julia, a legacy based on trust and understanding? When no one is watching, this is the high-stakes drama at its finest. The question of who has the last say in a dispute is simply one of several. It revolves around the essential decisions that shape a person's life. Who are you going to be remembered by? Your fights for or against? What kind of legacy will you leave behind? A record of how love and protection can change lives, or the destructive power of hate? The story of Gino and Jasmine serves as a warning about the former, while the one of Brandon and Julia is an optimistic, if difficult, fight for the latter. If they are brave enough to stand up for what they believe in, one road will lead them to despair and seclusion, while the other could lead to a fresh start. Consequently, we have a string of suspenseful moments that surpass even the most contrived reality TV dramas. What happens when Gino's reckless legal tactic backfires and he loses everything? Will he be bound by the law to an unborn kid, a symbol of his broken marriage and his naive pride for the rest of his life? What about Brandon, though? Will he muster the courage to cut the umbilical cord and prioritize his family over his parents' smothering love? On the other hand, will Julia's ultimatum be enforced, resulting in a shattered household before it has ever begun to take shape? All of these plot points are based on actual people's lives, and they are at a crossroads where they must make choices with permanent repercussions. The official story will never give you more than the surface level. Arguments, tears, and clean resolutions will all be shown to you. However, at the Viba FlixM, we are devoted to revealing the complex, messy, and frequently unpleasant reality at its core. The network would rather you don't hear these exclusive reports and hypotheses, but we'll keep following the stories, reaching out to our sources, and bringing them to you. Unveiling even more devastating findings, the next chapter of these sagas is already in the works. So, we turn the final question over to you, our community of investigators. Based on these new insider reports, who do you believe is playing the smarter long-term game? Jasmine with her calculated legal maneuvers, or Julia with her uncompromising emotional boundaries? And who is in greater danger of losing everything? Gino, who is facing a financial apocalypse, or Brandon, who is facing the total collapse of his family? Drop your most detailed analysis and your boldest predictions in the comments below. We want to hear your take on these high-stakes human dramas. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because the next tape is about to drop, and it contains a bombshell about another 90-day couple's secret financial dealings that will leave you speechless. This is the Viba FlixM, digging for the truth, one exclusive report at a time. More update: 90 Day Fiance, fans tired of Jasmine's constant back forth with baby daddy, Matt, totally over it. Matt stands firm on claims he only proposed to Jasmine because they have a child together, I won't deny. And Matt offers Jasmine up for shared visitations with Gino, begs him to take her back in anger. 90 Day Fiance, Gino brings phone records to prove Jasmine's infidelity. Here's what he revealed. I will explain everything. The viewers of 90 Day Fiance aren't exactly ecstatic with how the relationships between Jasmine and Matt are always changing. Every time they see them together, they instantly hate each other. It's getting old for them. Viewers have become tired of the reality TV star's incessant antics. Due to her desperation, Jasmine remained trapped in her abusive and disorderly relationship with Gino. Following the traumatic event with her ex-husband, she acknowledged to attending treatment. Still, it seems like the reality TV star can't get a life free of controversy. The true nature of Jasmine's relationship with her baby daddy remains a mystery to viewers. Never marrying Matt is something she brings up frequently. The reality TV actress continues to act as if she is in a committed relationship. Does Jasmine invent her relationship story? So, why are fans perplexed? Jasmine and Matt, who star in 90 Day Fiance, have not tied the knot as of yet. After discovering his infidelity and seeing his real colors on HEA Tell All, the former started to have doubts about the latter. And she insisted she would never wed her baby daddy because of his boasting about sleeping with other women and his offer to share her with Gino. The TLC star's decision to become a stay-at-home parent for her Romanian boyfriend confused many. He takes care of us, and I make sure everything is clean, Jasmine disclosed. Their plan to co-parent their child was something she spoke openly. Even her style of dress has evolved, according to the Panamanian native. Pineda said that around Matilda, her baby daddy and his family do not want her to wear anything too exposing. Therefore, her admirers questioned her rule-following behavior when she stated that she was unattached. In an effort to maintain her fan base, Jasmine Pineda has been working hard. Matt and she are only co-parents, she says. On the other hand, the 90 Day Fiance star's behavior begs to differ. The audience wants Pineda to cease being a mystery. She recently sent some pictures to Matt to show off a joyful family experience. A white and blue dress was worn by the TLC actress's daughter, while the star herself posed in a ruffle-sleeved yellow shirt. With Jasmine and Matilda at his side, Matt, dressed in blue pants and a shirt, posed joyfully. As a result, an audience member inquired, "So, do we like Matt today?" While agreeing, Jasmine playfully hinted that she couldn't say for sure if she would like him tomorrow. Even though they were giving her whiplash, Another user confessed to being a fan of hers and experiencing neck pain as a result. He came to fix some plumbing in the house. It started in the bathroom. The flesh is weak, Jasmine said. She made light of her sinful nature. Another wanted to know for sure if the reality TV star is still seeing her baby daddy. It depends on her mood, Pineda said. It was speculated by several viewers that Matt's infidelity was all staged. A Romanian Elizabeth did exist, and her baby daddy cheated on her, according to TLC TV Mess, which Pineda made apparent. And a lot of people who watch 90 Day Fiance think it's just a plot device. Matt, according to others, enjoys poisonous drama as much as anyone else. Matt stands firm. On claims he only proposed to Jasmine because they have a child together, I won't deny. The 90 Day Fiance star Matt Brannis maintained his stance on the claim that he approached Jasmine with the marriage proposal solely for the purpose of their child. He seems unapologetic with his comments on the HEA tell-all. Despite his spontaneous proposal, the reality TV personality made it clear that he isn't yet sure he wants to tie the knot with Jasmine. The 8th season was the one in which Matt proposed to his baby mom. He couldn't wait to start plotting out their future together. The reality star hoped that following her official breakup with Gino, she would give him some thought. However, Jasmine's heart sank as Matt revealed that he only proposed due of their shared child. He treated her poorly and said things that made her feel uneasy. Still uncertain, is he? Looking forward, what is his intention? When 90 Day Fiance's Matt Brannis revealed his true feelings for Jasmine, many were shocked. Because she frequented New York, he had doubts about her dedication. The reality TV star began to question his paternity while chatting with his co-stars. Even Matt started to question whether Maddie is his biological child. Since he didn't want to be bound to a demon if the baby wasn't his, he was little relieved if it turned out to be. While conversing with Jasmine, he became agitated. The Romanian celebrity began to sob as he questioned the baby's paternity. Because they both had blonde hair, Matt suspected that Matilda might be Dane's child. He pointed out, "Can you believe how stupid I'm going to look if the kid isn't even mine?" Jasmine Pineda of 90 Day Fiance thought Matt was the one and began to plot their future together when they first started dating. On this occasion, though, she preferred to take her time and decline his offer in light of the numerous red flags. The announcement that Matt would not have asked Jasmine to marry him unless they had a child together shocked people. It seems like he still believes what he stated and has no regrets about it. The reality TV star recently spoke out to TMZ about his relationship with his child's mother. He said, "I probably wouldn't be trying to marry her right now if it weren't for Matilda." Clearly, he and Jasmine still have a long way to go before they tie the knot, as he made it clear. The Romanian star went on to explain that no matter how many times he proposes to his baby's mother, she will never accept. Matt struggled to choose the correct response. He informed me that they get into heated arguments and that he often has to sleep over at his friend's house. Their reality television star believes it would be great if they could just get along more. When asked about his relationship, Matt seems unsure of himself. Jasmine has made it clear that she is furious with men and has stated her intention to never marry Matt. Her focus is squarely on her recovery and her children. Viewers of 90 Day Fiance can't wait for the celebrity to decide whether to stay with Matt or go. Matt offers Jasmine up for share visitations with Gino, begs him to take her back in anger. On 90 Day Fiance, Happily Ever After, Matt Brannis acts as if Jasmine is just a rented property or a car. Nobody anticipated this. He elevated feelings of jealousy and inadequacy to an unprecedented degree. A new side of the Romanian actor emerged in the series finale of Tell All. When Matt casually proposed that Jasmine hang out with her ex-boyfriend Gino Palazzolo, he became envious. In times of distress, he went so far as to encourage him to love her and return her. The TLC star failed to notice that he was referring to a human being, not an animal. Fans are left wondering if Matt's jealousy was genuine or if he was just acting. And what was Jasmine up to? Yeah. Is this going to be the final straw? Read on to discover the answer. Matt Brownus and Jasmine Pineda have a lot of work to do before they can start making plans for their future together. Initially, their relationship is just Sual, the 90-day stars. Fiance decided against feeling anything romantically involved. It all started with an informal open marriage, but soon enough, a child was born. Now that her relationship with Gino is over, Jasmine can focus on her future. Matt and she sat down to discuss the future. Pineda pointed out, "You were fucking me and her in every way possible." Surprisingly, Matt denied any remorse and said the incident occurred a year ago. He made it clear that he couldn't boast about being a Casanova with 2 women at once. Matt Branistorianu lost it and disrespected his baby mom, Jasmine Pineda, during a heated altercation on Happily Ever After. He has been experiencing fits ever since he arrived at the resort on the Tell All. Jasmine and Gino's apparent camaraderie at the resort shocked the 90-Day Fiancé star. Witnessing their emotional moment only exacerbated Matt's anger. After Gino asked Jasmine why she was crying, the two had an extremely moving conversation about it. Even though her ex-boyfriend said he wasn't cold, she insisted he come inside due to the extreme cold. While describing the cold weather and mentioning that he had checked the temperature in Michigan, Pineda became emotional. After their breakup, Matt wanted to know why they're behaving normally and not bickering anymore, saying, "Do you want to share visitation?" He probed further. "Hey, can we split her up?" Reality TV star made a joke about how his baby's mom wanted to hang out with them both. Jasmine told Matt to shut up and screamed at him. When they got into a fight in front of the cast, things quickly escalated. Matt hurled shade at Jasmine once again in an effort to get even with her. He concluded, "Gino, for the love of God, just forgive her and take her back." According to Access Hollywood, Jasmine quickly responded, stating that she wasn't his property and asking him to stop being so loud. But 90-Day Fiancé viewers are curious as to whether Jasmine would choose him despite criticisms. 90-Day Fiancé. Gino brings phone records to prove Jasmine's infidelity. Here's what he revealed. Once again, 90-Day Fiancé viewers are bracing for a nail-biting finale. Gino Palazzolo is hell-bent on making sure Jasmine doesn't get away with it after adultery accusations. The receipts have been his preferred means of proving her infidelity. In a final effort to make his ex-girlfriend regret her behavior toward him, the American is finally delivering the proof against her. Gino has not shown any proof that Jasmine was unfaithful to him so far. He allowed his wife to have sexual relations with another guy under the pretense of an open marriage, which garnered criticism for failing to meet her sexual needs. His many fans blame him for his poor choices. However, the TLC star is willing to reveal his ex-wife's true nature to the public. How will Jasmine behave? Will she finally be exposed? As far as Gino Palazzolo is concerned, the already hectic and dramatic HEA Tell All is only going to get worse. His heart was broken by Jasmine, and he seeks revenge. The 90-Day Fiancé actor overheard the girls gushing over him at the resort, even on their first day together. Jasmine was lounging by the pool with her co-stars when Gino approached her. "Rumor has it that you've been trash-talking me behind my back," he challenged. However, Elizabeth begged the indigenous American to spare the girls an evening of disaster. Gino was still worried that someone was trying to smear his reputation. With a smile on her face, Liz told her co-star that he was defenseless against them. Jasmine eventually replied as well, which just served to heighten the tension. The TLC performers started yelling and screaming at each other. Gino Palacios seems to have gathered all the proof Jasmine needs to question her life choices. He has been making the same allegation about having evidence of her infidelity for a long time. In anticipation of the next tell-all episode, TLC has dropped a fresh sneak peek. The 90-Day Fiance star was seen browsing Jasmine's call log on his phone. As Gino put it, when I checked the phone records, Matt's number was a match. So that Andre could confirm its legitimacy, he subsequently provided Matt's phone number. Up until the very end of the video, nobody knew how accurate the reality TV star was. The figure gave Gino an air of self-assurance in the trailer. Nevertheless, the fans were let down by the absence of tangible proof. The tell-all was the point where, according to one supporter, Gino's evidentiary claims were disproved. Another user questioned why he couldn't provide meaningful evidence to support his claims. The reality TV star has spent months claiming that Jasmine had been seeing Matt before their open marriage. The people that support Gino would be more satisfied if he presented proof rather than speculation. Some of them seem to have been the targets of his newfound hostility and resentment. Their research indicates that the 90-Day Fiance star is just attempting to prove a point by stating things that do not have any basis in reality. Many viewers feel that Palacios should seek professional therapy and move on from this ordeal. Just shut up. You're just tolerating her open relationship because you never loved her, another person said. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.